Can you imagine a time before Netflix and chill? A time when the only streaming involved a brook and a fishing rod? Let's take a journey back to the 1700s, a time when folks got their jollies not from a screen, but from each other. Now, I'm not talking about any scandalous shenanigans. No siree, I'm referring to the wholesome, community-driven entertainment that was the heartbeat of every town across this great nation. Picture this. It's a Saturday night in small-town USA. The work week is over, and the townsfolk are ready to kick up their heels. And I mean that quite literally. Every Saturday night, the community band would tune their fiddles, dust off their drums, and set the stage for an evening of rollicking fun. The townspeople would gather in the communal hall, their faces flush with anticipation. The music would start, and like clockwork, everyone would burst into a lively jig. But the fun didn't stop at dancing. Oh no, these were people of many talents. When they weren't twirling their partners around the dance floor, they were putting on plays and skits that would have you in stitches. And let's not forget the feasts. Tables groaning under the weight of homemade pies, freshly baked bread, and stews that would make your mouth water. Now I know what you're thinking. How did they manage without the convenience of a remote control or the luxury of a pause button? Well, let me tell you, there was no need for such things. The entertainment was live, the laughter was real, and the memories made were priceless. These were the days when community mattered, when people connected not through Wi-Fi, but through shared experiences. Days when Saturday nights were synonymous with camaraderie, creativity, and a good old-fashioned hoedown. So the next time you're lounging on your couch, flicking through countless shows on Netflix, spare a thought for the good old days. Days when entertainment was not just something you watched, but something you lived. And that, folks, is how Saturday nights used to be. Full of life, laughter, and a whole lot of jigging. Fast forward to the 1920s, where the only thing louder than the jazz music were the flapper dresses. Ah yes, the roaring 20s, an era of bobbed hair, bathtub gin, and the Charleston. A time when the parties were bigger, the pace was faster, the buildings were higher, and the morals, well, they were looser. The 1920s saw a revolution in entertainment. Jazz, a music genre that had its roots in African-American communities of New Orleans, burst onto the national scene. It was a rhythm that made your feet tap and your heart race. It was the soundtrack of the decade, and it was as wild and unpredictable as the times. And let's not forget about the flapper culture. Oh, those flappers. They were the it girls of the 1920s. With their short skirts, bobbed hair, and carefree spirit, they were the embodiment of the new, liberated woman. They smoked, they drank, they drove cars, and they danced. Boy, did they dance. They danced the Charleston, the black bottom, the shimmy. They danced until dawn, and then they danced some more. Meanwhile, the silent film industry was booming. Hollywood was churning out film after film with stars like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton captivating audiences with their slapstick humor. And let's not forget the talkies, the first sound films. The Jazz Singer, released in 1927, was the first feature-length motion picture with synchronized dialogue. It was a game changer, and it signaled the beginning of the end for silent films. But the 1920s wasn't all jazz and jive. It was also a time of prohibition, of speakeasies and bootleggers. It was a time when people knew how to keep a secret and how to have a good time. It was a wild, crazy, heady time. A time of change, a time of excitement, a time of excess. A time that was truly roaring. And just like that, the 20s roared by, leaving a trail of jazz notes and sequins in its wake. Then came the 1930s and 40s when the world went gaga over radio. And no, we're not talking about Lady Gaga. This was the golden age of radio, a time when entertainment wasn't just about seeing, but about hearing and imagining. It was an era when soap operas weren't just for daytime television. They were radio shows that had everyone clutching their pearls and gasping in shock. Imagine folks huddled around their radios, hanging on to every word as the dramatic voice announced, "Will Mildred leave her no-good husband for the dashing milkman? Tune in tomorrow." And it wasn't just drama. There were thrillers and mysteries that had people biting their nails and jumping at shadows. Picture a family in their living room, lights turned low as the chilling voice of the narrator echoed. And as the clock struck midnight, the scream echoed through the mansion. You'd bet your bottom dollar that little Timmy checked under his bed for monsters that night. But it wasn't all hair-raising horror and heart-wrenching drama. The radio was also a beacon of laughter and mirth. with comedy shows that had people rolling on the floor laughing. Think of the belly laughs and guffaws as the radio comedian delivered punchline after punchline. Why did the chicken join a band? Because it had the drumsticks. News broadcasts, too, were a big deal. Families gathered around the radio, ears perked as the broadcaster delivered the latest updates from around the world. In breaking news, a cat has been elected mayor of a small town in Alaska. More on this after the break. And let's not forget the music. Oh, the music. Swing, jazz, blues, all pouring out of the speakers, setting feet tapping and hearts racing. The radio was the Spotify of the time, minus the annoying ads. And with the end of World War II, the radio waves quieted, making way for the next big thing in entertainment. The 1950s and 60s said hello to the idiot box, and no, we're not talking about your annoying cousin Larry. Now imagine this scenario. You've spent the last decade huddled around a radio listening to the smooth baritone voice of Walter Cronkite. Then one day your neighbor invites you over to gawk at this shiny newfangled contraption. A television! You're instantly spellbound. It's like radio, but with pictures. This was the dawn of television, a time when people were switching their Saturday night shindigs for a cozy evening with the tube. Yes, the very same device that today we use to binge watch cat videos and reruns of Friends. It started innocently enough. Families gathered around the TV set watching variety shows and sitcoms. Remember I Love Lucy? That show was the bee's knees. But soon the television began to replace the radio as the go-to source of entertainment. Why just listen to a baseball game when you can watch it, right? And let's not forget the advertisements. Oh boy, the ads. They were a spectacle in themselves. Imagine, one moment you're watching a thrilling detective drama, and the next you're being sold a vacuum cleaner that also doubles as a food processor. Talk about a plot twist. As the years rolled on, the television became a staple in every American household. It was the perfect device to escape reality. Had a bad day at work? Turn on the TV. Kids driving you up the wall? TV to the rescue. But amidst all the excitement, there was also fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change. Some folks thought the television would rot our brains, turn us into couch potatoes. Well, they weren't entirely wrong, were they? And thus, the era of sitting in front of a box all day was born. Little did they know, it was just the beginning. So, how did we go from barn dances and radio shows to binge watching and chill? Well, grab your popcorn and let's take a whirlwind tour through time. Once upon a time, entertainment was all about community. In the 1700s, folks didn't just sit around twiddling their thumbs. They put on their dancing shoes and hit the barn. Saturday nights were all about strutting your stuff on the dance floor and showing off your latest steps. The music was live, the company was real, and the entertainment was shared. Then rolled in the roaring 20s, and oh boy were they roaring. Jazz was the bee's knees, speakeasies were the cat's pajamas, and the Charleston was all the rage. Entertainment was still communal, but it was getting louder, flashier, and a whole lot naughtier. Next up, the golden age of radio. Families would gather around the radio set, eagerly tuning into their favorite programs. The Lone Ranger, The Shadow, War of the Worlds. These were the shows that got people's hearts racing and imagination soaring. Entertainment was becoming a more intimate affair, but it was still a shared experience. Then the dawn of television. Suddenly, entertainment was right at home. You could laugh along with I Love Lucy, marvel at the wonders of the Twilight Zone, or cheer for your favorite team in the World Series. And let's not forget the commercials. Oh, the joy of watching someone else eat a sandwich for 30 seconds. Fast forward to the 21st century, and voila. Entertainment is now as personal as your smartphone. You can watch, listen, play, and interact with anything you like, anytime, anywhere. You can binge watch an entire season of a show in one sitting, and the only dance partner you need is your couch. And there you have it, folks. From barn dances to Netflix binges, we've come a long way in entertainment. Who knows, maybe the next big thing will be holographic Netflix and virtual reality chill.